Okay, so welcome back here. We're going to talk about sales, marketing, and negotiations. Now, folks, before we talk about this, we really have to recognize that at this point in time in the 21st century here, there is nothing more powerful when it comes to marketing than the internet. I think you all know that because I'm sure most of you came to this program after having done a search online, right? Most of you probably went to Google or Yahoo or MSN Bing, and you probably put in keyword phrases like freight broker training, freight broker class, freight broker school, something to that effect, freight broker course. In fact, I bet you I knew what you were going to type in 5 years before you ever knew you were going to do it when I set the keyword phrases, okay? How many people actually came to us from online here? Google, Yahoo, pretty much everybody. Yeah, there you go. All right, so what that says to me is that we're using our advertising dollars very well. Now, when we first started my main business here of DOTauthority.com, that is when we got into the business of consulting, helping people set up trucking companies, we realized very quickly that you had to have a combination of online advertising and trucking media advertising, meaning if you wanted to get in touch with a trucker who's been working for somebody else and help him start his own business, where else to advertise better than a newspaper like The Trucker or Trucker's Choice or Trucker's News? I'm not going to put an ad for DOT numbers in the New York Times because that's the wrong target audience, right? So you need to know what your target audience is. Now, from your perspective, you should be thinking about traffic club newsletters. We talked about that. Business card advertisement. There's also a shipper group. I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not yet, but that group is called NITL. NITL stands for National Industrial Transportation League, NITL.org. They are having a conference in November in Fort Lauderdale. You might want to think about going. Great place for you to meet shippers. Okay. In fact, maybe next year, once you're properly set up and licensed, you can even get a booth there and start mingling with shippers, handing out some literature about your company, which will have been established by then. All right. So we first learned that you want to put small ads in the right publications that have high impact, good value, right? One of the first things that we saw when we started advertising in a publication called Truck Paper, right, used trucks, was that everybody who was trying to do what we wanted to do, namely do operating authorities and DOT numbers and all, those people were all doing the same thing. They published an 800 number. So if your competition as a freight broker all offers 800 numbers, what are you going to do? You're going to offer the same thing, right? You're going to do what everybody else does. All right. When you do that, you're going to wind up looking bigger than you actually are. That makes you look real professional when you have an 800 number. No one needs to know that that 800 number actually rings in your house in the spare bedroom where your mother-in-law occasionally stays. Okay? That's between you and Sprint. You can have a separate business line for return calls, or you don't even have to do that in the very beginning. Just order what's called distinctive ring service with your local phone company, and they'll take your existing line. They won't give you a new line that costs a lot of money. They'll just give you a new number, secondary number associated with that line. Now, you can only use a line one time, one call at a time, but every time that new number rings that you're going to use for business, it's going to ring in a different way than your normal ring. So the residential line, ring, and then the new business line, two-burst ring, bring, bring. Every time you hear that, you know it's time to put the kids down in the basement, the dog goes outside, and you got to kick your mother-in-law out of the spare room. Okay. Now, methods of contacting a shipper. In-person visits, that's great when supply and demand is with you, but we said idealistically, sometimes it's going to be about dealing with shippers who are in other states, in which case you're going to use the mail, you're going to use the phone. Usually you'll make contact by phone and then offer to fax your information packet, which is really your solicitations packet, over to them so they can review it. Your broker's license, your bond, a nice cover letter. We gave you a sample in your packet there. And ultimately, you're going to tell them what your taxpayer ID number is. They've got to sign off on the shipper credit application, and they got to sign the broker-shipper contract. The shipper credit application is there to protect you. Remember, there's no bond that you can file against if you don't get paid. So this is your only lifeline to make sure that nothing goes wrong, okay? It's not a guarantee. It's just because they ever went under before doesn't mean they're not going to go under for the first time with you. But it'll help you if there's already bad data there and you can walk away from what would have been a nightmare, okay? So shipper credit application. First Advantage is a company that manages shipper credit, transportation shipper credit. They have a blacklist in there, compunetcredit.com, right? You can use Dun & Bradstreet, which is the standard business credit reporting agency, but this one is special to transportation shippers. So you might want to think about this as well. Okay? Prospecting. Get ready to get over the fear and discomfort of cold calls right now. Remember, folks, this is about sales. If you don't like sales, then you may want to reconsider this as a career for you. With sales comes rejection, right? You're trying to actually get business. People say no. Don't let it affect your focus. You want to be a machine. You hang up the phone, you pick up the phone again, and you dial. Right? Why should shippers do business with you? They already have contracts with other brokers. What's different about you? What's better? What's unique? Ask yourself, what can I offer that's different from my competitor? How can I score more deals without lowering my rates too low where I can't reap a profit? What is the competition doing that I can improve? And what aren't they doing that I can start to offer my shipper client? And the answer is going to be service, 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 service. Provide the best service a shipper's ever had, and that you will get the business and you will retain the business. You are an account manager. That means retention. Provide the best service. Be detail-oriented. Dot your I's, cross your T's, manage the load. Manage the account. Your competitors with existing contracts will get lazy and they will start to take their shipper clients for granted. They may even get greedy. They don't stop at 20, they're at 50. And what happens is as you start to add 3, 5 start to drop off. So you think you're getting somewhere, you wind up with a deficit. Okay? So in one way or another, you're going to wind up at 20, whether you like it or not, somewhere in that range. All right? Okay. Ask the shipper for the opportunity to help with just one problem load that they are having trouble with. Don't go in as a stormtrooper and try to get all their business from day one. You got to kind of take baby steps. You'll get there if you got the right stuff. But you got to prove yourself along the way. Remember, you're on probation. They promised you 2 loads. Do those 2 loads well. Give them excellent, top quality customer service. If you handle the problems that they really needed taken care of and the other broker couldn't handle, well, then you just became their superstar, didn't you? They're going to scratch their head and they're going to say, now, wait a minute. We got 10 loads a week, and we've got 9 loads that we're giving to Rico. There's 1 load he couldn't handle. James Lamb comes in, and all of a sudden, he handles that load and fixes the problem Rico couldn't do. Why are we rewarding incompetence? Why are we giving 9 loads to the other guy? Rico, you're out of here. James, here's another 9 loads. You get all of business now. Because we want to keep you around because you know how to fix problems. Think of yourself as an aspirin to your shipper's headache. Okay. Sales approaches. Don't take no for an answer just once. Make a second attempt even after they say no. All right. Anybody here ever worked as a telemarketer before that wants to admit that they were a telemarketer? Yeah, I was a telemarketer too. Right. One of the toughest jobs I ever did. I think I burnt out after 2 months. I did well. I was rep of the month 1 of the 2 months, but very tough job. You sit at a table like this. You have some supervisor that comes and whips you because you're not picking up the phone fast enough. And you got 3 things on your desk. You got a phone. You have your lead list, the people you're going to call. And you have a script. Everybody knows a telemarketer follows a script. Sometimes it's really bad. Hi, my name is Kathy, and I'm calling on behalf of Credit Card Plus. Would you like credit card protection? Right? Because you're reading a script. It doesn't sound natural, right? Now, obviously, you don't want to do that. You don't want to have a script when you're a freight broker. But you kind of want to have the same philosophy in terms of the second attempt. A script is meant to make a second attempt. And what it says is try to sell something, and if they say no, don't give up. Come back in a different way with a different approach, articulate a different attribute, and try to do it again. Right? In this case, it would be, well, you know, I can appreciate you're happy with your current broker, Rico. However, let me just ask you, did you folks use a broker before Rico? They'll probably say yes. In which case, now you're going to ask a question that's intended for them to say anything except the one word that a telemarketer never wants to hear, which is the word no, right? Let me ask you this. What made you switch? Can you say no to what made you switch? What made you switch? No. It doesn't work. That's not natural, right? Now they have to tell you a story. Now, do you really care why they switched? No, we could care less. We just want to build rapport, prevent them from going down the direction they want to go. We're trying to control the conversation, right? They're going to tell us a story, and no matter what they say, they've fallen into our lap here because we're going to say, well, just like Rico offered you different opportunities and benefits before the previous guy, we have benefits and opportunities that we want to tell you about, and we should start with fuel surcharge. What are you currently paying? 26%. Get out of here. Shouldn't be paying a dime more than 19% under current market conditions. Let me fax you over some documents. Why don't you take a look at how much you've been overcharged, and then why don't you give me a call? I know you're going to call because you're going to realize I can save you money. Go with the final question to close the sale, right? That's sales, closing. Now, when do you think we might be able to handle that sample problem load for you? Recognize here that at this point in the conversation, you're not asking for the business. It's a given. It's the premise, right? I know we're doing business. You know we're doing business. We're still on the phone. The only question left then is when. So what's better for you, Tony? Tuesday or Thursday? I have both days open. Aggressive? Of course it is. That's sales. Now, making the sales call. Research the company you're calling before you call. You've got Thomas Register available to you, Leonard's Guide, right? Know and study what you're going to say before you pick up the phone. Again, not a script, but a general organized thought. Bullet points on a piece of paper. What do you have to absolutely communicate to the shipper? I'm licensed and bonded. And one other attribute. What's your best attribute? For me, I own a freight brokerage, and it's the only freight brokerage in the United States that's owned and operated by a former DOT investigator. You want to make sure that your freight winds up in the right hands? Who else would you use other than the guy who used to write tickets to the unsafe carriers? Right? It's natural that you would want to come to me. What's your pitch going to be? What's your angle going to be? If you're working from home, close the door, no kid sounds in the background, no babies crying. It's okay to work from home, but don't advertise. Dogs barking, cats meowing, fish making whatever noise they make. Fish don't make noise, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, the jokes get real bad after 4 o'clock. In fact, I forgot a joke. Oh my gosh, I forgot to do a joke. You want to hear another joke? It's about TransCore. If you want to buy the TransCore product that I just showed you, TransCore 360 Express, there's an information form in your folder. You fill out that form, you fax it in, and there's a really nice guy over there named Bert who will give you a call. Now, sometimes Bert is busy, so you'll hear from his assistant, whose name is Ernie. So you'll either hear from Bert or Ernie. Bert or Ernie. You got it. Actually, her name is like Sally or Sarah. It's Sarah. But I just made that up. Okay. Now, here's my favorite part of the day. Remember when I first met you, I talked about voices, right? I told you that I was going to use a fake voice today. Now, here it comes. Get ready. First of all, before we go there, when you're making the call, at the onset of the call, you want to find out, try to get a feel for the mood that the person is in. It's only two moods. There's good mood, there's bad mood, right? Just because you want to sell does not necessarily mean they want to buy at that particular point in time. They may need to buy, but they may not be in the mood to buy. You might just catch them at the wrong time. So how they answer the phone is going to be the difference between closing a sale and coming back another day trying again, okay? If you get hello, that's a nice hello, right? It's a good mood. Green light, continue. But what if you get not so nice? What if you get hello? Does that sound inviting? It's almost like tacking, right? Nasty and cold. That says, who the heck are you? What the heck do you want? When are you going to get the heck off the phone so I can go back to my business? Right? It could be that guy is in a bad mood because his boss just came down and yelled at him and told him, you better get this freight off this dock or else you're going to be looking for another job, pal, because I'm tired of this backlog. You call. And he's in a bad, angry mood. He just got his job threatened. You're the very person that can help him fix that problem. He's not with it. He's not open. I don't know if it's a good time to talk or not right now, Joe, but I can call you back tomorrow, 10 o'clock. How does that sound? Yeah, that would be better. Click. Next day. Hi, this is James from Excelsior. Remember we talked yesterday? We have a 10 o'clock appointment. Oh, yeah, James, how are you? How are you doing today? It's in a better mood. Sometimes these guys are in such a bad mood. It's because the number one worst thing that could ever happen to a guy happened to him. You know what that is? He just got the phone call from his wife, and he found out his mother-in-law is coming over for the weekend. All right, let's match our tone and speed to our prospective clients. So when we do training in-house, right, in terms of my own companies, one of the things that I do is I do this exercise called Vinny versus Earl. And the idea is to suggest, although we don't want to be fake in any way, it's a good idea to try to tone your accent down if you're talking to somebody that's in a different region of the country. Too much New York in South Carolina, no good, right? If you're from South Carolina, too much of that in Los Angeles, no good, okay? So you might want to tone it down a little bit is what we're saying. Try to match your tone and speed to your prospective clients. Don't be fake, but try to be as neutral as you can. That's why I use this voice like this. Right? So what I usually do is I pretend that I'm at my main company, dotauthority.com, and I'm in the hot seat here. I'm on the switchboard, right? We've got people calling in. Somebody from customer service is out sick that day, so I take their spot. Right? And here I am. Phone rings, and I say, good afternoon, DOT Authority. How can I help you? And in that case, the person on the other line is Vinny from the New York metro area. You know how Vinny talks? You know how Vinny sounds? I kind of gave you a little bit of that before, right? Vinny sounds something like this. Yeah, I need to get my friggin' authority over here. You know what I'm talking about? I can't freaking stand these carriers. I haven't gotten a fuel surcharge in I don't know how long. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Little Joe Pesci kind of guy, right? My Cousin Vinny. Remember that movie, right? Now, when I get that guy, you know what I get to do? I get to do a wonderful thing. This fake voice that I'm using, this sanitized voice, I get to switch it off, switch back over to my natural voice, and I talk to him like me. You want to hear me? The real me? Real me sounds something like this. I'll tell you what, Vinny, forget about it. I'm going to help you get your friggin' authority. I'm going to fax you over some friggin' forms. You fill out the friggin' forms, and then you fax the friggin' things back. And in fact, I can't believe you haven't called me all this friggin' time, you friggin' freak. Now, again, I'm trying to make you laugh, right? But is there a New York way of talking? Yes, there is. You know who appreciates that? Another New Yorker. What sounds like an insult to you is actually us being New Yorkers. You know? Forget about it. What are you doing? Come on. Let's get you your authority. I'll fix you. Right? It's not disrespectful in our world. Down here, freaking Frank, you can't say that to another person. Right? How dare you? Right? I had a run-in yesterday with a little old lady in one of the break, what do you call, the business centers at the hotel. And she was from the South. I was from New York. And she decided she was going to insult me. And she felt it was improper for me to defend myself, right? I went in and I coughed. suffering from a congestion. And she was like, oh, you can't cough in this room, blah, blah. And so I said, you know, lady, I said, you've been on this computer all day. I've been trying to get in here. I was trying to be nice. But if I had known that all it was going to take to get you out of this room was for me to come in here and cough, I would have done that 3 hours ago. That's New York, right? Now, you might say, oh, that's so rude, right? Maybe it is, but it's New York, right? All right. Should have seen Yana's face. Her eyes shot out when she heard me say that. All right, now, match your tone and speed to your prospective client. So now let's do the next one. Earl calls up. Now, folks, I'm not a dumb guy. I know I'm in the South right now, so, of course, I got to make sure I position myself by the door in case you don't like the way I do Earl, because there's a lot of you guys and only one me, right? So I have to ask you for permission to do Earl, right, for the record. So do you want me to do Earl? I got to see some heads nodding, otherwise I got to skip this section. You're saying no? You're from South Carolina? You're not. So we're good, right? Because you're the biggest guy in the room, so then we're good to go. All right. I could take the rest of you guys. I wasn't sure about him, right? All right. Now, here's what Earl sounds like. Earl, you got to give me a second to become Earl. Sounds something like this. Boy, I said, boy, I need to get my authority. Holy moly cow. Now, that goes to prove you shouldn't try to be somebody that you're not, because that's how I do Earl, right? Now, somebody said recently it sounds like that foghorn, leghorn, chicken hawk cartoon from the 70s. Remember the rooster guy, right? Boy, I say boy, right? More like Texas, I guess. I don't know. But the point is that that's a voice, right? So if I get that, I know one thing for sure. That's just not from New York, that guy. I don't know where it's from. Now, the way I'm going to deal with him is going to match my tone and my speed to him as best as I can. I'm not going to try to be him because it's going to sound ridiculous. I can help you get your authority, boy. He's going to call me boy. I'm going to call him boy, and that's going to be like a joke, right? Not going to work. So the best I can do is use this voice. Turn off New York. I know 3 things. I don't go out of my way to tell him I'm from New York. I'm going to slow down the way I speak, and I'm going to be very sensitive to his culture so that I am more respectful than I normally am, because I tell little old ladies to go take a hike, right? Okay. So I'm going to go back and say to him, I'll tell you what, Mr. Earl, sir, I would be happy to help you get your authority. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to fax you down some forms, and you take your time and you fill them forms out. And when you're ready, you fax them back. Take your time. I'm in no rush. I'll be here, sitting on my front porch, in my rocking chair, polishing my shotgun, aiming at the squirrels, drinking some sweet tea. Now, you have no idea the amount of pain I am going through to be that nice and to be that slow. Because I want to talk like this because I'm from New York. Forget about it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm rehearsing. I'm practicing. I'm being the persona that I need to connect with him. What's the problem here? There's a potential culture clash. If I talk to Earl the way I talk to Vinny, then you can forget about it, because that deal's not going down. Next thing you're going to hear from Earl is this. What in tarnation? Boy, where does this here 800 number ring? You're cracking up back there, aren't you? Right? And, of course, New York City, you know the rest, right? Okay. Now, listen to what they have to say. Respond assertively, not necessarily too aggressively. Review the action items at the end of the call. All right, so when we hang up, Vinny, I'm going to fax you over those friggin' materials, all right? Schedule the follow-up call. I'll call you back in about an hour, see if you have any more questions. All right, if you build it, they will come. What movie was that from? Field of Dreams, right? Kevin Costner from the late 80s. Focus on success. Know you are or will be the best at what you do. Be the best by providing excellent quality service, starting with your first load. Don't look back. You're going to start to build the right reputation because of this mindset, and all of a sudden the business is going to come from word-of-mouth referrals, thus lowering your advertising costs. You want to create an industry buzz. You are the up-and-coming broker. You want the whole industry to know about it, and you want to brand yourself based on whatever values you find important. Right? What's important to you? Service, cost. You like to be funny. You want to be conservative. What is the image that you're looking to portray? That's up to you. I'm going to tell you the power of branding is huge. When I first started my first business, I spent many months trying to find the right logo for DOTauthority.com. I started out with the Interstate Shield, the red, white, and blue. I thought that was so cool. And I told my graphic design people that I hired, oh, go just do something with this. And they tried this and that, and I just didn't like any of the brands. And then they just on their own said, what about we just blow up the DOT, and then we use the colors of the road to attract truckers. In fact, we put a little picture of the road, and then we use the slogan, trucking starts here. Perfect. If you want to start a trucking company in the United States and you need help, where do you go? DOTauthority.com. Why? Because trucking starts here. Sound good? All right. What's your brand going to be? What's your slogan going to be? You got to pull it all together. Right? Once you actually have your brand, you want to register it. Right? You can use this website to go get some help in designing it, logoworks.com, but register it with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. I can't tell you how many times when I'm not teaching, I'm on the computer, and all of a sudden somebody decides they're going to compete with us and a new company coming into business. That's fine. This is America. We allow that here. But what you can't do is you can't put up a competing website with me and use my slogan, because that's my intellectual property. The goodwill associated with trucking starts here is mine. And if you use my slogan, then we're going to give you a cease and desist letter, and ultimately we might have to sue you, right? Take you down. Now, the power of branding is so important that I want to illustrate it through this quick exercise. And the ladies in the room might be able to help me better than the guys. I'm thinking of a cosmetic product, okay? I'm thinking of a product that has a long, thin tube, either made out of blue plastic or white cotton or cardboard, and there's cotton balls on both ends. Ladies use it to apply makeup. It's called a? Wrong. Some guys use it to clean their ears. It's called a? Wrong. What's it called? What's the name of the product? Huh? Cotton what? Close. What? Cotton swab. That's the name of the product. Now, I'm pretending like you're wrong when you're saying Q-tip. I know what you're saying. It's not the same thing. It's the brand. Q-tip by, I think it's Johnson & Johnson, right? So when you are mentioning the thing by the brand name, you have been properly brainwashed, and they have branded their product well. You walk into CVS, you say, excuse me, sir, where's the Q-tips? He's going to point you to that particular aisle where the Q-tips are. You're going to go and look. You'll probably see some competing brands, the No Frills brand, but you're going to say, Q-tip. Oh, there it is. There's the Q. Okay, I got it. I'm going to go to the cash register. You've been brainwashed. That's the idea of branding. During the break, I went and I got myself a Coke. No, I didn't. I went and I got myself a cola soda by Coca-Cola, otherwise known as, doing business as, Coke. If I get remarried, might decide to have one more baby. In that case, next thing you know, there I am at CVS and I'm buying Pampers. Wrong. Diapers by Pampers. You see the power of branding? You get to think about one particular company's product. If you could do that in the service industry, and you could do that with respect to freight brokering, when that shipper thinks he needs a freight broker, he says, I need an Excelsior. That's what I need, right? Not a freight broker. I need Excelsior. What's the number for Excelsior again? That's branding, okay? Okay. Now, contract negotiations, we're going to wrap this up real quick here. As the seller, this is the ABCs of negotiations. Here you are dealing with the shipper. Try to find out what they're paying now, but beware of low ball tactics. What are low ball tactics? That's when you ask them what they're currently paying and they give you an artificially untrue low amount. I'm paying $1.20 to go from Atlanta, Georgia to Dallas, Texas. No, you're not. It's at least $1.25 that the trucks are getting, right, according to the chart. So you have two options. You can either confront the shipper in a nice way, be professional, and say, I don't know when the last time you did this run, but that's the rate from like 3 years ago. Currently it's more like such and such. Or you can play the patronizing, tongue-in-cheek, you get what you pay for game, and then still bring it around so that you can close the sale. $1.20, huh? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we could probably do that for you. We could probably match $1.20. In fact, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to hook you up with $1.18. How's that sound, right? Even better than $1.20. Shipper's getting all excited because he tricked you, right? He's really paying $1.27, but he made you come back with a low rate, and then you come back around on him. And you say, yep, we'll get you $1.18. Of course, you got to understand what that gets you at this point in time is one of our C carriers. Now, what are they going to say next? What the heck's a C carrier, right? You want to know what a C carrier is? I'll tell you what a C carrier is. Remember back in the 1970s when you used to watch cartoons and you used to watch Barney Rubble and Freddie Flintstone, how they used to get around in their little bedrock cars, right? In cars that they were powered by their feet like this, right? That's a C carrier. You see those 18-wheelers? They got about 12 working wheels on them. And ultimately, they don't mess with such ridiculous things as licenses and permits and insurance. Why would they want to go and buy insurance when all that's going to do is increase your cost? They'd have to charge you $1.27 a mile if they did that. So don't worry. We got you covered. We'll get you one of our C carriers. And the freight will eventually get there at some point in some condition. Now, if you want to do no nonsense, what you really want is one of our B carriers. Now, a B carrier, of course, they cost more than a C carrier because they're licensed and they do pay their insurance, right? They're almost always on time. They have very limited safety and accident-related problems, right? Now, if you really want to be fancy, I can get you one of my A carriers. Now, they're top of the line. They're, of course, the most expensive, but they will get your freight to the point of destination on time and in good condition. So you tell me, which one do you want? You want A, B, or C? That's my menu, right? Now, what are they going to go with? Well, they're not going with C because you just painted a horror story for them, right? I don't want to overpay. I don't know about A. All right, I'll take one of your B carriers. How much is that going to cost? Well, I'm going to have at least $1.62 for my B carrier, right? Now, you see how that works? Ironically or conveniently, ABC equals low, medium, and high. You saw these figures before, right? Remember this figure here, the low one? We said we're never going to go there, right? It doesn't matter what we put there. We could put $1.44. We could put $1.20. We could put $1.18. Sure. But we're going to get them into this range because you get what you pay for. You want an A carrier? Well, normally that goes for about $1.80, but for you, $1.79 because you're Sony. How's that sound? Now, is there such a thing, folks, as a B, and C carrier, or did I just kind of make all that up? I just kind of made that up. Remember insurance companies, ABC? We just applied it to motor carrier. Now, is there such a thing as a good and a bad carrier? Oh, yeah. Pass and fail, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, worthy of my shipper's freight and unworthy? Absolutely. In fact, I would suggest that you do go back to A and you just leave it at that. You're only going to use A carriers. Whether you call it an A or B for pricing purposes, you're going to go out there and try to find the best of the best. Excellent safety record, licensed and insured, good reputation. The freight's going to get there when it needs to. Right? So basically we're saying that we're always going to hire the best carrier because we want to make sure that that particular load is going to go off without any problems. If there are problems, who's going to hear about it? We are. And we don't want to deal with problems. We want to deal with sales. Right? Okay. How long does the shipper have to pay you? It's all going to be based on the negotiated contract terms. I'm going to suggest that the basic guide for you to follow is this. However much time you're going to give the shipper to pay you, give yourself an extra week to pay the carrier. So if they're going to pay you in 10 days, maybe you pay the carrier in 3 weeks. The problem here is the trucking company going to want to wait 3 weeks to get paid? No, they got fuel to purchase, right? That's why we're going to talk about factoring in the last segment here. All right, hold on one second. Now, in terms of picking the right mode of carriers, use only licensed and insured carriers. You can use owner-operators as long as they are, in fact, independent and have their own authority. You're going to confirm their license, their MC number in the licensing and insurance system, right, through safersys.org. What's the word you're looking for? The word active. There you go. Okay. In terms of your carrier packet, you're going to need to have your license, your bond, nice cover letter. They may run your credit, once you have a credit profile, through the broker credit reporting agency called Redbook or RBS. All right, so be prepared that they're going to be checking your license and checking your credit. You're going to also eventually have some people that have worked with you, carriers that you've paid, and they might be able to serve as your reference. Carrier contract that protects you against back solicitation. Now, remember back to the number one thing that can go wrong. What is that? Shipper doesn't pay. This is the second thing that can go wrong, right? You thought you were going to have a long-term deal, and the carrier pulled the rug out from under you, stole the business away, right? So this is very important. This is the second worst thing that can happen to you. You get back solicited. In terms of collecting the data from the carrier, you're going to get their authority, their liability and cargo insurance. Let me just kind of warn you here real quick, and I'll tell you a quick story. We're going to go about 15 minutes late here, but we started at about 8:20 or so we're still on time. Somebody went through this class about a year ago, and they went through all 3 phases with us. So they did the one-day workshop, and then they went through us and we got them the license and the bond, and then they started doing the broker assistance plan. They actually started using us for consulting to help and coach them as they went. So month after month we would help them out. We'd do our phone calls. We got them into sales and marketing a little bit better, and we got them into rate making a little bit better, and we fine-tuned them, and then all of a sudden they went off on their own. For a couple of months we didn't hear from them, and then all of a sudden they called us back, and they said that they had a problem in that they had brokered a load, and the load disappeared. Now, in each class, I always tell you that there are 4 things that you need to do when you are qualifying a carrier. You're going to want to write this down. Some of it's already there, but let's just make sure it's clear to you. The first thing is get the carrier's MC number. In fact, folks, when you first call a carrier, or if they call you in response to a load post, the first thing you're going to say is, what's your MC number? Don't start talking about rates and negotiations. That doesn't matter if they're not licensed. It's not worth talking about. Don't waste your breath. So you got to get the green light before you go down that path. So get their MC numbers, number 1. Number 2 is check it in the system, look for active. Once you have active, then you can continue along your way. Number 3 is you want them to fax you their certificate of authority and their certificate of insurance. And number 4 is no matter how they called you, cell phone, payphone, you're going to call the company back on whatever phone number is listed on the FMCSA website to make sure that it is in fact them. I have very bad news for you. There are people out there that are looking to defraud you. There are people out there that are looking to steal from your shippers. There are people out there that are imposters. You need to protect yourself against fraud. Okay? Now, I told this guy that back in the class that he went to. Then he went out and he kind of went off and started to forget some of these things. So when he called me and he told me what happened, he said he had posted a load on load board, and what happened is he told the truck that called that they could have the load, and he told them where to go to pick it up. Right? He got their MC number and he looked it up and it said active. That's all he did. All right? What happened next was the load was picked up, and it was on its way to be delivered, and it never showed up. So in essence, the load was stolen. So at that point, the guy then called the phone number that he had on file for this guy, and it was disconnected. So now he knew it was a scheme to defraud. So now he called the phone number that was on the FMCSA licensing and insurance record, and they answered the phone, ABC Trucking, and he said, yeah, where's my load? And they said, what load? You know, the one that you picked up in Chicago like 3 weeks ago? It was supposed to be delivered by now, and no one's ever heard from you guys again? We didn't pick up a load in Chicago, and they were telling the truth. What happened was somebody used this company's MC number, and it is an active number. The problem is that the guy who was calling wasn't really affiliated with this company. Had the broker seminar participant who became my client done what I had recommended, had the certificate of authority faxed over along with the insurance, in that case, the only person who can possess the license is the person that the government gave the license to. Now, if you want to talk about how people can be really good at counterfeiting documents, yeah, that's true. But even if you do that, the fourth mechanism of protection, that's what busts him. Because when I call back to the number on the government system, he can't change that number. Right? So whoever is going to answer the phone, that's the real carrier. And I ask, do you have a Joe? Because that's who I'm talking to about a load. And he's giving me your MC number. And he says, no, I don't have a Joe. Then you know what happened. Okay? So you have to do these things because you have to make sure you protect yourself. One bad load like that, and you're in for a huge awakening. Okay? Rude awakening. All right? So you're going to get the signed contract back as well and the IRS Form W-9, which gives you his taxpayer ID so you can pay him. Terms and negotiations as the buyer. Whoops. Let the carrier tell you what he needs before you advise what the load pays. That's why we said we're not going to post the amount on a load board. You're going to determine the maximum rate. Let's say we've secured a load from Atlanta to Dallas. We've negotiated with the shipper. They're going to pay us $1.45 per mile. Calculate the distance. Do the math. 145 times 740 is 1075. We know we want to make at least 15% and have that as our base commission, right, in order for it to be worth our while. So we need to make 161. Take that from 1075. What do we have left available to pay the truck? 914. Are we just going to hand over the whole 914? No. We're going to try to negotiate a better deal for ourselves, a higher commission. We'd like to get 28%, right? So let's see what we can do. So the phone rings and we say, good afternoon, Excelsior Logistics, how can I help you? And the truck says, yeah, I see you have a load posted on Trucker's Edge over there going from Atlanta to Dallas. And you say, yes, that's right. The load is available for pickup at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Here it comes. It's always going to come. Yeah, all right, well, what does the load pay? Now, you're not going to answer the question. Bless you. You're going to throw the question back at him, and you're going to remind him that he's not the only truck in town. Well, you know, I've had quite a few calls this afternoon on that load. What will you charge me? Even if it's the only call that you've gotten in 6 weeks. Well, you know, I've had quite a few calls this afternoon on that load. What will you charge me? You don't have to let him know that you're desperate, right? That's part of the negotiation process. Now, usually he'll go first and then you'll respond. But in this case, this guy gets argumentative. No. You tell me what it pays. All right, well, how about $8.50? Now, what you wound up doing is lowballing him. And you know he's going to bring you back up just a little bit, but not as high as he was at. In which case, he gets kind of arrogant. And he says, $8.50, you freaking kidding me over here? Well, you know, I asked you to throw out a figure. Yeah, all right, I'll take your friggin' load. I'll take it for $9.50. Well, you know, I'd love to be able to do that, but unfortunately the budget doesn't call for that. Who do we have back, by the way? Vinny, right? Sorry, Vinny, the best I can do is $900. If that works, then that's great. Otherwise, well, I guess I'm just going to have to wait for one of those other trucks to call me back. Yeah, right. I'll take it for $900. There you go. All right, back and forth. All right, last session, factoring and other resources. This is sponsored by our partner, JD Factors. Again, the definition of factoring is the managing, or I should say the selling of your invoices to ensure a positive cash flow. Okay? It's all about having cash on hand to meet your expenses so that you can keep the business going and growing. Right? Factoring ensures you can pay your bills. It also alleviates the carrier's concern about your newness. When you have a factoring company, if you have the right factoring company, the type that pays the carriers direct and then gives you what's left over, less their factoring fees, the carriers love that because it's about the factor's reputation. Oh, you got JD Factors on your side? Okay. Yeah, I'll do business with you. They don't care that you're new. They don't care that your MC number starts with a 7. They don't care that you don't have any bond record yet or any credit rating yet. It's all about JD Factors. Right? This is how you'll start off your business. You're probably going to wind up having to use a factor not only for financial reasons, but for reasons of getting the business in the first place. What's challenge number 1? How do we get the business? Factoring company backing you so that it's their reputation. All right. Now, there's so much that I should really tell you about factoring, but we don't have enough time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend a really good book for you to read. And it just so happens that I happen to sell that book on dotauthority.com. Imagine that. Right? In fact, if you go to freightbrokertrainingclass.com and you click on 20 steps, it's one of those steps. Get Henry Seaton's, S-E-A-T-O-N, apostrophe S, Henry Seaton's book, Protecting Motor Carrier Interests in Contracts. Protecting Motor Carrier Interests in Contracts by Henry Seaton, S-E-A-T-O-N. Now, this book may sound like it's meant for motor carriers. It is. However, if you flip it around, it gives you some really good information in terms of the relationship between broker and carrier, as well as some really great forms in the back that he lets you use, contract templates, very fair and balanced broker-carrier contracts, both for spot market and for long-term residual income producing deals. Right? That's one of the reasons you should get it. And then there's a great chapter in the back about factoring, no matter who you are, what to look out for. Factors come in 3 types. You're never going to guess what they are: the good, the bad, and the evil. So you got to be very careful about these factoring companies. They know that you only need them for a limited amount of time, after which, once you're successful, you factor yourself. Right? Your profit becomes cash flow. Right? So what some of them will try to do is trick you into signing a long-term deal, 5 years, and you can't get out of it. Most of them are all or nothing. Either you factor all your receivables with us, or we're not going to do business with you. So all of your receivables for 5 years, they just made a ton of money, right? And it's difficult to get out of that type of a contract. Some of these factors are so bad that they make you, under the terms of the contract, sign your checkbook over to them. Well, you might as well, at that point, just give them the keys to your office because they're running the show, right? Some of them will pay you in 15 days. Now, why would I want to give you 5% when I can wait for my shipper to pay me in 15 days? The idea is for you to pay me sooner, quick, right? So when you're dealing with a factoring company, I'm going to say there are 3 basic issues. The most important thing is money, right? How much money are they going to take away from you in order to finance you? I'm going to suggest the average amount is 5%. Now, you will see companies that offer less than 5%. Compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. Not all factors are the same. In fact, there's 2 types. One we call recourse factors, and the other we call non-recourse factors. Very big difference. And it all has to do with where the risk winds up being. Is it on you or is it on the factoring company? If you're smart, what you're going to do is hiring a factoring company that not only gives you the money, but takes on the risk. So that if the shipper never pays, the worst thing that can ever happen to you, it's not your problem, it's the factoring company's problem. You're going to pay them 5% to cover you. Basically, it's an insurance policy. Right? If anything ever goes wrong, you've paid your dues, and it's not going to affect you. One bad bill that doesn't get paid can make for a very bad day for you, because not only did you not make your commission, but you had to reach into your pocket and pull out some money from the last 4 or 5 commissions to cover the load, because now you got to pay the carrier, right? So this is a very bad thing. Factoring companies can be your solution, or they can be a disaster to you. So what you want is a non-recourse factor. Circle that. You want a factor that charges you the 5%, and then in that case, what they do is they assume the risk. Once you sign over the invoice to them, or you assign the rights to collection to them, in that case, if the collection ever happens, that's their problem, not yours. They can't throw it back on you. Non-recourse. Recourse means they can come back and say, no, I want my money back. This didn't work out too well for me. Okay? And then the last thing is, of course, how quickly you get paid. Next day direct funding, now we're talking, right? Direct deposit. Okay? So non-recourse 5% and direct deposit next day is the way to go. That's JD Factors, which is our recommended factoring company. JD, yeah, JD Factors. So if you want to talk with them, then you can fill out the information form that we have in your packet, or just write to us, info@freightbrokertrainingclass.com, and ultimately they will then respond to you. Okay? All right. I should also tell you that when you engage in the services of a factoring company, it's kind of like you're starting a whole other business when you think about it. Business number 1 is the buying and selling of transportation services. Business number 2 is the creating of debt and the selling of that debt before it ever comes back and bites you. Right? So think of factoring as a loss prevention program that you're going to incorporate into your business plan. I'm going to suggest that it's never good to have a middleman in the equation long term. You know how I feel about middlemen, right? Cut out the middleman. But in this case, to get you started, to get the ball rolling, not a bad idea. After a year or so, you dump the factoring company, and then you factor yourself. All right, any questions about that? All right, well, we're getting close to the end here, folks. So in terms of educational resources, here are the gentlemen that operate these other 5-day programs. Now, I'm not going to say either anything wonderful about them or anything horrible about them. I'm going to let you just have the information. I'm going to suggest that that is the fine dining experience. Of course, when you go to a fine dining establishment, you know you're going to pay a lot of money for that fine dining experience. So if you want that, it's out there for you. All right, I'm going to tell you again, we based this program, this smorgasbord that you had today, based on their program. So it's the same basic content. Of course, they would go into more detail over the course of 5 days. Some of the folks that operate these schools, on the 5th day, they actually have you broker freight, kind of like hands-on kind of stuff. Sometimes they'll do it in front of you, or they'll put you in the hot seat. I've heard good things and bad things about that experience. A lot of people wind up saying, well, I wound up making this guy all this money, and I worked for him, and I paid him to be there. Other people say, I wish I could have taken those clients with me. Well, he didn't give them to me. Those are his clients. Other people, have other things to say. But in essence, it's the same main topics as what we covered in summary level today. Problem is $2,500 to $4,500 for a week. You got to take a whole week off from whatever you're currently doing. Got to fly to them, hotel expenses, food, all that kind of stuff. So in lieu of that, what you might want to think about is, again, our 3-phase program. You did phase 1. You're done with that. Jan, at this point, is now going to hand out your certificates to you, except for the 2 I guess I still have to sign, right? And so you're all squared away. You're going to get your $99 software, if you so choose, from that certificate, and get yourself set up with license and bond as phase 2. And then phase 3, again, broker assistance plan. We will be available to you on an ongoing basis, if you so choose, if you want to join that program. Whether or not you join, I hope this is not the last time that I get to see or hear from you folks, because again, as the president of the trade group, as you join the industry, I'd like to see you involved. I'd like to see you involved in your organization that exists to protect your interests and promote your rights as a freight broker. So hopefully at least we'll have that level of interaction, even if we don't formally do business together. You should know that my time I consider very valuable. So when I do a on-site consultation, I charge $300 an hour, basically a lawyer's rate, because I'm admitted to practice before the DOT. So if somebody wants to hire me to come and actually audit their records, it's at the rate of $300 an hour. I'm giving you the opportunity, since we did business here already, and I'm hoping you'll continue to do business with us over time, to join this plan for $99 instead of $300, right? You get an hour's worth of service, right, and unlimited emails. So excellent opportunity for you to get consulting services at a discount rate. Am I doing this out of the goodness of my heart? No. I have to tell you that I have a plan. You know what my money-making plan is? My money-making plan is to not only make money off of you today, and hopefully through the license and through the broker assistance plan, but over the next 10, 15, 20 years. Because I'm a broker in a different respect. You know how that is? Every time I hook you up with one of my partners, I get a commission for that. So if you call Scott, you mention my name, and you wind up getting your trust fund agreement through him, then he's going to slip me some bucks. And I'm going to get paid every time you renew, which means if I can launch you today and you keep renewing over and over again, if you use JD Factors, I get a check for that. If you get signed up for a corporation through myllc.com, I get a check for that. So I'm going to tell you that I have this financial relationship with these folks because it's only fair that you know that that's the deal. But the nice thing is that means that I now have a vested interest in making sure you succeed. I'm not going to try to charge you $300. I'm getting paid by these other companies. I'm going to charge you $100. We're going to split the cost of consulting because I need you to succeed. If you don't make it in your first year, I just lost 20 or 30 years of commissions. Right? That's not good for business. So that's the purpose of offering this program. It's to help you, and it's to help me make money off of you over the course of the next couple of decades. All right, and that's the deal. Now, I want you to understand, in terms of conflict of interest, we have been very selective in terms of who we have chosen to match you up with. I got factoring companies that are recourse factors that are begging me to dump JD Factors every time I go to a trade show. Say, come on, James, come on, we'll take you out to dinner, we'll give you a higher percentage. They're recourse factors. They're going to hurt my clients. No thanks. I'll stick with JD Factors because they're non-recourse. Right? When it comes to Pacific Financial, Pacific might want you to turn over the $10,000 to them. I'm going to warn you, they're not FDIC insured. Okay? So I don't play one way. I go both ways. Well, I don't know if that sounds right. But you know what I mean. Okay. Yeah, I think I might have to edit that out. We'll pretend that I didn't say it. All right. Industry Trade Group. TIA is the official long-term one. Here we come now with AIPBA. Please consider joining us. We're not going to make you wait a year like TIA does, and the application fees are a lot less expensive than TIA as well. Right? We're out there fighting against that bond to make sure that you can get into business and stay into business as a small or mid-sized broker. Entrepreneur Magazine, great book. I mentioned it before. You can get it through freightbrokertrainingclass.com. Click on books on the left. That's what the picture looks like, and you order that book. It's like $30 plus shipping, and then great resource guide in the back, great glossary, so that you can become even more familiar with a lot of the industry terms if you're not familiar already. Number one business. Remember how I told you if you stayed the whole day, folks, that I would tell you what the number one business is according to Entrepreneur Magazine? Well, here it is. According to them, it is import-export. Now, I'm going to suggest that they are correct in terms of my assessment. You can make a lot of money in importing and exporting, but the problem is the regulations are very intense. In fact, there's a lot of stiff criminal penalties associated with violations of some of the importing and exporting statutes. If you don't believe me, you go ahead and you buy that book, and you go out and you start your own import-export business instead of broker, and you will quickly find that if you export just one rocket grenade launcher to the Taliban over in Afghanistan, you see what happens next. The men in black will be at your door so fast, right? It'll be faster than a truck posted on Trucker's Edge or Transcore 360. All right, so with that said, folks, I'm going to open up the floor here to any final questions that you may have. All right, Again, if you are ready to be a freight broker and move forward, we're more than happy to help you go down that path, get you into phase 2. Jan is in the back here. She'll be happy to chat with you about how to go about putting in your application with us. Again, if you do want to do it after this class ends, but before midnight to get your $50 off, all you got to do is use the form, fill it out, fax it in to us tonight. That's in your red book. Or just go right back to freightbrokertrainingclass.com, click on broker license, and you can do it right through the website using the keyword phrase that you know all about, right? All you got to do is do it today. All right? So with that said, I thank you very much for coming here today. Does anybody have any final questions? Yes, sir. Good question. Good question. If I start the application process, how long do I have to get the bond on file? The government is going to tell you that you need to do it basically within 10 days, right? What actually winds up happening is they tell you that, and then after 30 days goes by, if you haven't done it, they send you a warning letter, and they say, all right, you didn't do it when you were supposed to do it. Now you really better do it within the next 60 days. Otherwise, we're going to dismiss your application. So they give you a total of 90 days to get it in. All right, so you should only apply for your broker license if you know that you are going to be within 90 days of getting your bond. All right, if something goes wrong and you miss the 90-day mark and you get dismissed, you can technically come back to us. There'll be another fee, of course, and in that case, I think it's a $300 fee that we charge, and we will file what's called a petition for reconsideration, which means, yeah, I know I was supposed to do it in 90 days. I didn't do it, but now I've done it, and would you please reopen my application? And they will. As long as it hasn't been a full year yet, then they'll do it. So, but to avoid that additional $300 fee, just get it in within the 90 days. So don't start until you know you're in that window. Anybody else? Any other questions? Last chance. Speak now or forever hold your freight. You need to get the license and the bond and the UCR, right? The state registration, currently 187 for a freight broker for 2010, and it will be 187 for 2011 as well. Basically, that covers you nationwide. All right. Any other comments, questions, applause? There we go. All right. Well, in that case, I thank you very much. Go out and go back and see Yana to get your certificate. And if we can help you in any way, I look forward to hearing from you. And again, please look at independentpropertybrokers.org. Check out that website because that is your trade group. You're going to be a small broker, and it exists for you. With that said, I thank you very much for coming today and being with me and staying overtime. And I hope that you wind up becoming a very successful broker. I look forward to hearing your success stories down the road. All right. Thank you very much.